What's going on, everyone? It is Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, so we're live from 42 West 18th Street. This is Coffee with Creators. That's Adorama, not a green screen, and this is an actual human being. This is the prolific, legendary Chris Buck, portrait photographer. We're going to get into who this human being is and what he does, because it's a lot, and you're going to want to stick around, especially if you're a portrait photographer, because I think you're going to hear really what a portrait photographer is about, not just, here's where you put the light, okay? Which I'm so... it is what it is. But first, I want to say a quick thanks to, Fujifilm for sponsoring this. We were just talking about the GFX. You're shooting the 100S.
Correct.
I'm on the 102. The GFX is like this amazing system, but you've also got the X106, which is a social phenomenon right now. You've got the X series all over it, the XT50, the T5. You can check my video out on that on this channel, but there's an entire lineup and there's something for everybody, but they're also just like a unique brand that just does cool stuff. And I'm a big fan of the GFX series. Otherwise I wouldn't have been into it. And you're going to see a lot of work from the GFX from this guy right here when I get into that. If you guys have any questions or want to check out any specs, links down below for that. I also want to give a quick thank you to Tenba for giving you a free bag, because we are now supporting our guests by giving them a hookup. Tenba is awesome. It's basically a bag company that was developed by a photographer right here in New York in 1977. And everybody knows Tenba. I think if you've been in this industry long enough, you've had a Tenba at some point.
Yeah, I've got a few of them.
So they're supporting this show by making sure you guys are feeling like you are appreciated.
Well, I'm going to stay then.
And and lastly, I want to say thanks to Gotham Roasters for hooking us up. Cheers, kid.
Cheers.
What'd you get?
I got a iced coffee with oat milk.
I'm all about the black. I'm Greek, so I got it. Everything gets to taste burnt and tarry.
Yeah, nice.
It's what it
Beautiful.
is, man. So Chris Buck, who is this guy? Well, there's people that take pictures of people, and then there's portrait photographers, and there's editorial. And I think Chris Buck is not only a celebrity photographer, but the portraits he takes are full of a lot of thought and intent, and he's looking for a story with the person. He's looking for a way to portray the person, but also a story to go adjacent to that. And every time I've seen one of his images, I'm like, yeah, like that is a portrait of that human being. And I think that we'll show some of your work, but what I want to know is, where did you end up gravitating to portraits as a genre? Why did that be the point? Are you a connected person with people, or is that the way you connect with people in general?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like when I was starting out, I wasn't even really interested in photography. I was interested in pop culture. Like, I love movies, I love music. I loved Star Wars and Kiss and like,
Kiss.
just like, they're super fun. And so my thing was like, I use photography to connect to the pop culture that I was excited about. And now it's obviously expanded more into like writers and fine artists and politicians and such. But yeah, it's all about the connecting with the pop culture and, trying to make an image with my voice with those people.
This was one of my faves recently.
Thank you.
I think there's so much to be said about this image, right? From who she is, that she's an Olympian,
right? But
also the whole diffraction in the water says another.
Yeah,
it's very layered, but very direct. And I think you could get like in a glance, you get so much, which I think is what makes such successful portrait.
Well, in a way, like you're right, you call it a portrait, but this is actually kind of photojournalism. Like,
yes.
I need to tell the story of a young woman who lost a leg to a shark attack. And I need to like show that in a way that was like graceful and respectful, but also like I thought it was important to show her leg. Like if the leg isn't there, then the story's not there.
Oh yeah. And then the diffraction with her arm in the water to show that displacement was just, I thought it was really brilliant.
I mean, it was so scary putting that GFX 100S in a bag under the water because I just bought the camera.
I think we've all, like, I had to hang up a camera I just bought off of a building once, and I was like, why is it always when I just bought the thing? This one I also thought was really cool because it's, it's from the Daily Show and a lot of political commentary, but it's so lighthearted, but yet you still get the tie to...
Well, what's so funny is that Josh is such a great comedian, but he's a verbal comedian. And so whereas Troy is more visual, so shooting them in a funny way, I got the best picture of the day with Josh because I needed to kind of connect with him and pull it out of him. I just said, hey, lick the popsicle. And he kind of looked at me like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, come on, just lick it. And this is what he gave me. And the hesitancy is kind of what makes it.
Yeah, no, I mean... I think people don't realize how much every little detail in a face adds up to the finale.
Totally.
You could have 1,000 frames of the same human in the same space, but there's that one that everything lined up, the stars aligned, you know?
But half the job is choosing that shot.
Right.
Because a lot of people will be like, oh, maybe they won't like it, or maybe my client will think it's weird. I'm like, go for the weird. Try it. I mean, give an edit, give 15, 20 pictures, but put that, if you think that's the one, put it in the edit.
Yeah, and I think that that only comes with time, right? One, I think you have to have a body of work that people trust you.
No,
after a
I
while.
told you, I'm going to stop you right there.
Go, let's go.
Okay. It's not like Dan Winters suddenly started, Dan is famous for handing in only one frame.
Yeah.
Okay. But so I asked him about it. I was in Texas. I met up with him and his assistant. We went for barbecue in the hill country outside Austin, and it was awesome, right? Great barbecue. It's just literally just us in this place. And I was like, is it true, Dan? Do you only give just one frame? And he kind of laughed, and his assistant said, yeah, it's true. Now look, if they ask for another one, we'll give another. And I was like, but I knew. I didn't even have to ask. He always did that. Mm-hmm. It's not like he was like, oh, now I've earned the place, I can just give one frame. He just arrived as Dan Winters. I mean, I think the thing is that you have to do what you do. Like, I couldn't hand him one frame. It's just not me. But I think that you do you. And if anything, you use the arrogance of youth. You're kind of like, you're coming out of the gate as who you are. You're passionate. You have an aesthetic. You have a viewpoint. You show that viewpoint. And I think that that's important to do. If you sense it, you have to put it out there.
Agree on all that. I would think I was alluding more to it takes years to figure out which is the frame.
That's true.
And then it takes years for people to trust you that you are pulling the frame. But I'm not a guy that likes to give in one frame either. I give it. I've driven editors absolutely insane. And now I don't even give one frame for something like this. I just put if I do a new camera video, you guys see like 1,000 frames in a short video because that's where we are right now. But I also go, I'm not going to waste time editing this. You'll find your.
Well, that's it. The thing is that my clients, they don't want me to give them the whole shoot. They don't want to look through 1,000 pictures. They want to see the 20. Now they might come back and say, hey, can we see a little more of this setup? And I'll be like, sure. So I'll send them 6 to 8 more of that just that setup. But I don't want them saying, hey, just send more. Because that just feels like a power move. If there's something they're excited about, they're curious about, they want to see more happy. Look, I'm client first, always. But I also, when I send the work, I might send 20 pictures, but then I'll say, hey, here's my favorites and list off 3. Yeah. But they, most of the time they don't choose my favorite, to be clear. Like, I might be Chris Buck, but the client is doing what they need to do for their assignment. And all respect, like, I'm there for them. Like, I'm just happy for the opportunity.
Oh, and it's funny because we're looking at something different than the client is usually.
Yes.
Most of the time, almost all the time, they're like, where do I look the best? Usually is what they're kind of looking at sometimes. Unless they're really trying for something contextual. A lot of times, there's been models that I've worked with, I'm like, this is amazing photo of you. I've never seen someone get that expression out of you. It's like, yeah, but I wouldn't pick that to post. Right. That's the one. It's like, another boring, pretty photo.
But the thing is that oftentimes, oftentimes my client is my subject, but enough times it's not. Okay. So it's like editorial or it's advertising, and they're looking for they're looking to tell the story they need to tell that has nothing to do with the personal interest of the subject. Yeah, but you also chase things that aren't for client. You've had projects that are like, I want to do this. It's an off the wall idea. Yeah. You had one, forgive me if I'm mistitling it, but it's like the one with the presence where they're not in the shot. Yeah, it's presence. Yeah. So that they're in the shot, but they're hidden. They're hiding. Yeah. But initially you said they weren't. Initially, I was going to do it so they are like, maybe they just left. Like their aura was still there. Can we explain what this is? Oh, yeah, sorry. For you guys. So, well, you want to pull it up actually on the website? If you go to my website and go to series, it's just a website. Yeah, there you go. The second one. And so it's portraits. You go to series at the top, and then presents. Okay, so you can open some of these up. It's a portrait of a famous person, but they're not visible. Initially, I was going to do, that's Jack Nicklaus. The first one, this is Cindy Sherman. You shot Cindy Sherman? That's great. She's awesome. This is Michael Stipe from REM. This is Guillermo del Toro. Of course, right? Yeah. Hellboy. That one's a little bit of a giveaway. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. That's Nas. Of course it's Nas. This is David Lynch.
Unbelievable.
This is Devander
So
Banhart.
how do these work for you without the narrative?
So what this is like purely distilled Chris Buck. Like, I'm going to make a picture that's funny, but bone dry.
Okay.
This is, that was Jay Leno. This is John Hamm.
You know what? I definitely get that this is Jay Leno.
Right? I mean, I had to do it with the car, right?
But without the context, right? For people that just aren't that deep thinking,
Yeah.
it must be a bit of a challenge to get over the goal
When I
line.
shot with Jack Nicklaus, that's
Yeah.
the one with the bear.
Okay.
He was like, what's this about? And I'm like, well, you know, it's a shot. You're in the shot, but you're not visible. He's like, well, if I'm not seen, just shoot it without me. You know, Jack is a straightforward guy, obviously the best golfer of all time. And he's like, just shoot it without me in it. I'm like, no, you have to be in it. And I have a witness sign saying that they actually participated and all that. And he's like, this is crazy. I'm not doing it. I'm like, I'd explain to him like some of the history of conceptual art. So he would do the shot. It was awesome. And once we did it, he was like, that was fantastic. Let's do more. He loved it.
It's really funny when they finally click. You know, I think South Park did something similar where they had like these amazing guest characters, but they're like, you're gonna play a dog and you're only gonna bark. And
Right, yeah.
some people got it, some people didn't. I mean,
What
I
is
think
that?
Seinfeld was a turkey or something.
When was that Michael Jackson appearance on Simpsons?
Yeah.
In early Simpsons, and he played this sort of awkward guy.
Yeah, the
and
bald guy that was in
and
the same song.
Yeah, and it was uncredited, and it was only found out later that it was Michael Jackson who did it.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the challenges. If you're not trying to do something that they've either seen before that you've done,
Yeah.
or that is straight up like, here is a dynamic thing or something that is super gorgeous.
Sure.
They go, hold on. And it takes them a minute to munch on
Yeah,
it.
that's okay. I mean, but the fun thing is when I was publicizing this book, which was about 10 years ago, and it would be like on, some, New York Magazine or the Daily Mail or something, people would go nuts saying like, you wasted my time. This is the dumbest thing ever. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, people are just freaking out, but then occasionally to be like one comment, there's like, well, actually, if you know this guy's work, this makes sense. He obviously interacts with a lot of famous people and his work is actually kind of funny and a bit dry. This is just like a version of that.
Yeah. And they have to
that
get
was
to a
cool.
point where they kind of follow you as a photographer and
Yeah.
as an artist, which is what I think is the hard part.
But people hating it was awesome. Like, it was one of my favorite things. I'll tell you a funny story. I photographed Billy Joel. I don't know if you know my Billy Joel picture. It's like him with an applause sign. It's a kind of a quiet picture. And it ran in The Guardian. The Guardian did a story about it. And they were like, they interviewed me about it. And in the interview, I talked about how the picture was done and how Billy Joel was great, but I'm actually really not a fan of his music. And in fact, I changed the channel when he comes on the radio. All the comments were about how I have terrible taste. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I love negative comments. So please,
Do you?
Put them in. I mean, not really, but but when they're kind of lame, like when they're kind of just ignorant, it's really fun.
I wish I could be like that. I mean, I get every morning, I have thousands of videos online. Every morning I wake up to something. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
why do I care what
You
you're
shouldn't.
saying?
You shouldn't. They say reading the comments is virtual cutting.
Really?
Like self-cutting.
Oh, okay.
So that's like cutting. Is you're choosing to hurt yourself if you read the comments.
So for me, I don't want to throw something out there and not have any. It's like throwing into a void without the feedback. And I also think I was raised by editors in like weird rooms.
I think you should have part of your team read them, and they can call it ones you might want to see. Ones that are actually constructive, valuable input, or if there's something going crazy.
Yeah, well, I will say some of the negative comments, unless they're like super malicious, I'll always take them so I almost look at videos like a debate or work like it's a debate. Like I'm going to put this out there, but I know they're going to say this, and I either stand by it or I alter myself because they're the audience that I'm feeding it to,
open,
right?
Yeah.
And that's client work as well. It's like, I know you're not going to be into this, but trust me if we did this, you know? And I mean, we shoot different. I shoot zombies and aliens. I don't shoot.
Yeah, I've seen. Yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna go dark.
Your work has, I think.
Hey, can we talk about the workshop for a second?
Yeah. So if you guys are interested, my man's teaching a workshop. I'll pull up the link.
Yeah, I've got a workshop coming up later this month here in Brooklyn, Bushwick, Brooklyn, the heart of the creative New York. And I'm super excited about it. I do a workshop about once a year. And it's a portrait-driven workshop. It's really about bringing out your voice. Like, obviously, I have my approach and my style, but it really is catered to the audience and what they want to do, how they want to tell their stories. I'm a big believer in the personal, like you put yourself in your work, And that's what makes your work special and unique. And I'm trying to bring that out of the people who sign up.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is to find your style and your voice, and having someone guide you for insights can really help you get into a lane.
Well, even just trusting that. Like, I almost think people just need permission. Like I say to them, I don't just want to see this. I need to see this. This is why we're here. This is why, the thing is, everyone has different gifts and talent, but every person is unique. And if you put what you care about or you're obsessed with or your guilty pleasures or whatever, if you put them in your work, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So I think I pinned to the top the workshop link if you guys want to go check that out. And I think it's invaluable. Like being able to be on set with somebody to first of all, I don't care how many years you've been shooting.
Yeah.
Getting on set with someone that has a credibility and has been doing this and knows what they're talking about just gives you perspective. And I would have killed for that when I was coming up. I would have been like, can you, I assisted anybody I could, and just grabbed little bits and pieces from people. And there's some things I wish I didn't pick up. And there's some things that stuck with me forever,
What is true, like the people who sign up is a total mix from passionate amateurs to people who are emerging professional photographers, people who are longtime veterans who are looking for a reset or just for like another perspective. So it's a great group always. And, yeah, I mean, we do assignments with critiques, like multiple assignments.
That's cool.
I do a live demo where I'm trying to make a great shot, like right in front of their eyes. And I'm talking them through it, explaining, they get to see, like, I'm kind of like walking the walk and not just talking the talk. I'm going to do portfolio reviews. We're having a VIP guest, which is Amy Kellner from the Times Magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, top notch. She's got an amazing eye and she's a great personality. I mean, she just has a unique perspective and very like a great New York, like player.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be like a bang up weekend, 3 days. It's going to be intense, but awesome. I mean, people come in, people are transformed. If you come in with the right attitude, your whole approach, people's whole lives have been changed from the workshop.
Oh, well, I think sometimes you get an aha moment and that's all, it's worth everything, right?
Totally.
It's worth everything. But the portfolio review is a big deal because you go to workshops a lot of times, like, here, go play. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
And I don't play that game. Like, I don't think you should be learning from people that don't shoot live in front of you. That's my personal thing. That's what the space is about. That's what we do here. We shoot live in front of everybody. Yeah. But the portfolio review is like invaluable.
Yes.
Because it's seeing where you've been, not just, I just showed you some tricks and tips. Now go play.
Right.
It's not that. You know what I mean? There is a question in the chat, though.
Sure.
Brad McMillan is saying, you may have said this, came in a little late, but do you capture all this in camera or is it Photoshop or a mixture of both?
So that's a great question. So it's mostly in camera. I will do, I do make changes. I do make alterations. I sometimes do composites, but I'm trying to make it look real. One of the real beauties of photography is it looks like real life. And so I'm trying to make a surreal, magical image that looks real. So yeah, I'm not like, it's actually, I saw Arnold Newman speak once and he talked about this. This was pre-Photoshop. This was in like 1990. He came and spoke at my school and he was asked about like what amount of retouching is okay. And his answer was great. He said he had a client come to him and ask if he would do retouching. And so he went to Stieglitz at MoMA and he asked him, okay, what should I do here? I've got a dilemma. And so what Stieglitz said is, I mean, this is crazy. This is going back lineage to lineage. And he said, what you do is you have to do it in a way that's consistent with your approach. So you should do the amount of retouching or touch-ups or whatever would have been in those days that you would consistently do. You do the amount of retouching for them, that client, as you would have for any client. And if that's part of your practice, then apply it to this shoot as well. And that's my approach as well, is that I have an aesthetic approach. I don't pretend that my work is photojournalism. There is changes, there are alterations, but I'm trying to capture in camera and there's like I remember about 20 years ago, there was a lot of, especially in the advertising space, a lot of like heavy retouching, grass looking super, super green and perfect. And that was never my thing. My whole thing with retouching is better, not perfect. So that's kind of how, boom.
This guy. Well, I look at the camera as two things. One, a documentative tool.
Yeah.
And two, the most successful, connective, impactful things ever are just straight honest.
Yeah.
And the hard part of shooting portraits is getting people to be comfortable with what they and who they actually are.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, you got zits or whatever, we can figure that out. But if you
Sure.
got scars, if there's something I can highlight that shows where you've come from, what you live, and also you put out the work you want people to expect from you. So if you put out highly stylized, retouched work, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's what people are going to expect from you.
Yes, that's a great point.
But don't go, hey, I do honest portrait. I don't do like it's being truthful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But you also do a bit of commentary with the way you shoot. I feel like you're putting a little bit of your
Of course. Well, I mean, I think in some sense, I'm not a photojournalist, but I'm a journalist in the sense I've got an opinion.
Yeah.
Like I editorialize. One of the things I love coming up through editorial is that I'd be given a manuscript and I read the manuscript, but then I would have my own take on the subject. And that wouldn't be counter to the article, but I'd have my own take that would be a unique take on it that's separate from what the article is. And I think that's part of my job. I mean, you look at the history of photography, Annie Leibovitz changed the direction of Rolling Stone and their visuals. She didn't come in and say, oh, I'll just shoot Rolling Stone style. She went in there and she did what she thought would work. And that changed what Rolling Stone became. And I think that's really cool. Like that's like, I feel like it's my job to move the magazine or the client or the advertising client forward.
Yeah, and you have to also have a little bit of confidence that they came to you for a reason, to trust what you think you should go with.
Yes. And you always shoot range and you always hear their notes. And like, look, once I'm on set, this is the thing. I talk all big and I'm all my vision and all that. But once I'm on set, I'm so client forward. I actually have to think of my ideas beforehand and write down detailed notes. Otherwise, I'm so focused on what the ask was, what the art direction was, that I get caught up in that. So if anything, I end up having to like counterbalance. I'm so client focused. Sorry, I'm clapping.
No, it's right. Well, you're also collaborative is what you're basically saying,
Right.
I think that gives you longevity also, because if you're easy to work with, they bring it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think this is a good story pertaining to, so that you shot Eminem, right?
Yeah.
But in here, you actually talk about how you initially had an idea of doing half male, half female type of look to him. And they were like, no, do half professional, half like hip hop.
Right.
And so
yeah,
we on that.
So we did that, and then we ended up being a thing where it got watered down too much, and it was fine. It just didn't really quite work. And then I also, I always try to do something simpler as well. Whoa. So there you go. I just had a simple idea of having him put his head in a fish tank. And this is in London, England. And I just went to like a pet store and I bought the fish tank and brought it to the shoot, like filled it up with water in the sink in the studio and just had it there ready to go in case there was a minute to do it. And I asked him, hey, would you do this? He's like, sure. He's like, do you mind if I add a little detail to it? I'm like, sure. And he's like, we got really trashed on tequila last night. I'm going to put a tequila bottle in the background and you can see it through the glass.
Oh,
there. Yeah. It's just very subtle. But yeah, this became one of my most successful pictures over time. Like people love this picture.
Well, it probably stands out heavily.
I guess among Eminem pictures it does.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't usually do this now.
But it also, you can make as many metaphors this as you want with the way his life has gone, where he's sticking his head.
That's
also,
true.
You know what I thought about this when I saw this was that scene in The Freshman where Dustin Hoffman takes the scuba and he goes underneath the pool, just get drown out everybody talking to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can see that being a thing.
The Graduate.
Oh, The Graduate. I'm sorry. What was The Freshman?
The Freshman is that Matthew Broderick one, right?
Whatever.
With Marlon Brando?
Getting corrected.
I don't know.
See this guy.
Sorry.
It's all good. Teresa's asking, do you work with assistants and Digitex? If so, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I love working with the great assistants. They can just email me. I mean, I usually just have one assistant. And if it's a digital tech, it's because it's an ad shoot. So I really tend to keep it kind of bare bones. And so I'm looking for assistants with multiple years of experience, usually leading a crew. So I don't really have a lot of space for like training people. They kind of come in like they already know what they're doing.
Well, you're hiring for a job. You're getting people.
Well, you know what it is too,
right?
To be totally honest, is like I know a lot at this point, but I'm not super technical minded. So I like my assistants to kind of know more than me. And so I want them to come in like bringing like technical and on-set know-how that I don't know.
Yeah.
And like that's real value to me.
Especially if you're bringing a Digitech, like I don't know Capture One in and out. I know it enough and I love using it, but they'll know things and how to save a thing. And also, one thing people don't talk about with Digitex is if something goes down, they're constantly redundantly backing up. They have an extra copy of the software. And then like, that's what you're bringing that crew on board is to make sure that you get to the other side of that job.
Yeah. Well, the assistants, you're paying for speed and know-how, whereas the digital tech, you're right, you're paying for like the emergency almost.
So when you've got like a client coming to you and you have, musician X coming, do you do a test shoot or are you doing sketches? What's the process to get you?
I rarely do a test shoot. I will if there's a technical aspect I need to lick, but it's more about research. I read everything I can about the people. It could be the official manuscript from the publication or notes from the client, but it could just be me like just looking someone up. Like I've got a shoot. I'm actually shooting tomorrow with a big name photographer who I can't name, but so I've been like watching video interviews with him. I'm reading multiple interviews, like manuscripts. I'm reading like the Wikipedia page. I'm going deep, and then I'm making pages and pages of ideas, notes. Had a conversation with the client. I'm even like spitballing with friends, like, how should I tackle this one? And then I go in. So my thing is prepare, and then open. So once I'm on set, I'm just like, I've got like a dozen ideas. We could go in multiple directions. Maybe I have a few props ready to go. But then once I'm on set, hey, where's the light? Maybe there's a great background. Maybe the subject mentions something that could be an idea. I'm ready to scrap everything for a better idea.
See, that's a portrait photographer. You know how many times you see people with less experience, they don't even introduce themselves to a model. Yeah. They're at a workshop, they don't even have a name. It's just they're stuck in the screen on the back of the camera, and they're not. When you are able to realize who you're shooting and then how to approach it, that's a portrait photographer, because you know what you're doing? Yeah. You're portraying the person.
But also too, like the research is also about having a conversation with them.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's been multiple times when I've shot with bands and they'll be like, our name, and half the people at the label don't. Or like, half the people interviewing me today don't even know like my story as well as you do. And that's like, obviously I love hearing that, but it's my way of signaling to them, like, I'm prepared, I'm professional. Here's one of my favorite stories. I was shooting the writer Neil Strauss, and we were shooting his home in LA, and he had this space. It was sort of indoor-outdoor space that was like a sort of very fancy bathroom. And I want to shoot in the bathroom with him and his wife and his newborn baby, but I just wanted them like in towels. And so we had to do that shot first because the light was going to come around and kind of ruin the shot if we waited. Okay. So usually I do the kind of shot where they're half naked at the end to kind of build to it. But I was like, look, for the lighting, I need to do this first. Would you do it? And he's like, sure, we'll do it. So he did it, and he's kind of warning me, like, if my towel falls, apologies, full Monty action. But at the end of it, we did all our setups, we did different things, it's a great shoot, and we're having like a soda afterwards, and he's like, we're hanging out in his kitchen, and I'm like, hey, look, you were awesome. I was so pleased you did that kind of vulnerable shot right at the beginning. Did you like look at my work and kind of know who I was? Is that why you were so open? He's like, no, I just heard you came by yesterday to scout, and so I knew you were serious. And I was like, cool. Like, so we do these little things just as part of our like professional practice because we want to make great work. Yeah. We want to be ready, but it signals to the subject and to their people that we know what we're doing. So, okay, here's the great thing. Sorry. Okay. So for this photographer tomorrow, they initially suggested we shoot from 2 to 4 p.m. And I was like, this is a photographer, a major photographer who has amazing lighting. How dare he suggest we shoot in broad daylight in the middle of the day? No, I wasn't angry, but I was like, huh. So I came back and said, I'd like to show up. I want to start shooting at 5:30 and wrap at sunset. And they came back and said, sure. And I'm like, yes. But in a way, like that was me signaling like, yeah, I'm not shooting in the middle of the day. I want nice light,
And you're committed. You got me for the day. You're not rushing through it.
I kind of want to push back a bit too. Like, obviously we were very polite, but I kind of want to say like, hey, look, we want the good light. Can you work with us? And they're like, yeah, we'll make that work.
And it if you push, it shows you care. It shows that you're not just like, yeah, whatever you want, just go do. Like,
I mean, half the job is asking. I think this is one of the things. I was talking with one of my assistants one time, and she was saying like, oh, people always ask me like, how do you get people to do that stuff in shots? And she's like, I was like, well, what do you tell them? She said, I say you just ask. She's like, that's what I see. I just see you asking them. And I do think that's a huge part, is just asking for what you want. But there's so much that goes up, like leading up to the ask.
Absolutely.
How, like, doing the research, knowing who they are, showing respect, being on time, being just professional on set. But then also conviction. I think that's half of the ask. When I ask someone to do something, I'm not like, I kind of have this idea. It's a little weird. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm like, I ask, but I kind of ask as a lead, like, hey, I got this idea. I want to do it next.
It's not a demand.
Yeah, it's not a demand,
Right.
but it's also not a question. It's more of a request. Like, hey, I got this thing. We should do it. It'll be awesome. As opposed to, hey, would you do this? Is that okay? Like, it's done with confidence. It's done with belief. Now, look, over half the time they still say no, but then I go to the next idea and I do it with confidence again. I'm not like crushed. I just move on to the next one. And who knows that the third favorite idea might end up being awesome.
Yeah. And if you're not excited about it, how could they be excited about it when you bring it up or something like that? But I think, Chris, you got to also realize it's not just doing a little research the day before. This is a career leading up to it going, I trust what you want to do. Maybe I don't see what you're thinking of, but if you say it, I'm going to give it.
Yeah, but most of my subjects have no idea who I am.
Really?
Like that guy who posed with the towel.
Yeah.
He said he had no idea who I was. It was only because he heard I'd scouted. And that signaled to him that I was a serious professional.
Nice. So Pete Martin is asking, do you have any techniques to help them along if they're not feeling, if the subject isn't feeling on the shoot on the day? If they're not feeling the shoot, do you have any like techniques to get some like more
That's a
into
great,
it?
wow. That's like over half the time. People will, forget not feeling it that day. People tell me directly, I hate being photographed.
Everyone says that.
Right?
Everyone, unless they're talent, like actually
Right,
like a
right.
performer.
Yes.
You get people like, you ever do corporate headshots? That's all you're going to hear all day.
Yes. Well, and my response, the way I deal with that is just get your pen out. I ignore it. Now, obviously I might acknowledge it and say like, yeah, it's tough, but it's just gone and I just move on because I can't let that stuff get in the way. I can't let their hesitancy get in the way. Look, okay, I did a shoot with this guy. He was a Japanese American makeup artist. Maybe you can find him on my Instagram. It's from a year and a half ago. Anyways, I was shooting with him and it's a shot of a guy holding an eye in front of his eye. I think you have to go up. Yeah, a little more. You keep going. And so, yeah, there he is. Okay. I was shooting with this guy. It was for the New Yorker. So I'm like, I'm shooting for the New Yorker. I'm going to make a banger picture. Like, no way, no two ways about it. So I met with him the day before to see his space and just say hello, shake his hand. And so I come in the day of the shoot. Me and my sister were loading in. And I said, hey, how you doing this morning? He's like, fine. I want this to be easy. And I was like, well, it won't be, but it's going to be awesome. And it was just like, kind of like, I was being a little funny, but also saying like, yeah, this is hard, but you know what? I'm excited. We're going to make banger pictures today. It's going to be an amazing experience. It might be awkward, but it's going to be great. And in the end, after all is said and done, he sent me a private DM saying, like, thank you so much. You're a master. And I was just like, wow, like, because he is like the king of makeup in Hollywood. So the fact that obviously, like, I loved even looking at.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, I know who that is.
He's like the master. Like, he's
Rick
amazing.
Baker brought him over here. He was so impressed
That's
by
right.
him. Yeah.
So
It's my industry, man.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Like, he's insane. So
His sculptures are.
Yeah, just seeing his work. But I was trying to find a way to like kind of get his vision. So you'll love this. So he's holding one of the eyes from his sculptures, right? Because they're kind of like 1.5 times size.
Yeah.
Right? But I actually bought a prop eye like this, like just off of Amazon, had it rushed to my apartment in LA, and I brought it with me. And I was like, I've got this. And he's like, no. And he brought his own out, which of course was like, so much better.
Yeah.
Because also it's his own, but also he's like, that's great. That's garbage. And I'm like, well, of course it's like, make it think it's his idea. Yeah.
The light is amazing. I love
Thank
this
you.
shot.
You know what this is? Okay, I'll tell you what it is.
Okay,
It's
go for
actually a skylight. It's a skylight coming down, shooting against a white background.
it. Okay.
So the white background, of course, is made gray by the differentiation of the lighting,
Kids.
and then just a little like Shamira like strobe over camera
Okay.
to give a little kiss of light in the shadows.
You can see it
Yeah.
the eye itself.
Yeah, actually, I retouched out some of the light. Actually, I think that what you're seeing reflected there is actually the skylight.
Okay.
The box I took out because it was too much. So, as the person who asked earlier about Photoshop and cleanup, I took out the reflection of the strobe because it was too much. But you can obviously see it. You can probably see it actually in his eye. But yeah. So then, so that's how I got a little feel just like I have. I want to feel just like, almost old Hollywood,
No, that's amazing. I would have loved to have photographed this guy. His sculptures he did one, was it Salvador Dali did a sculpture of?
I did shots of that one too.
I saw it in person.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I couldn't stop looking at it.
Yeah, it's mesmerizing.
I think the story was like Rick Baker saw him and he was like, you have to get this man a green card over here in any way you can. And his work has just been.
So he's so charismatic and he just has such presence. And I was like, because I spent a bunch of time with him like the day before. And I was like, directors must ask you to be in their movies all the time. And he's like, never. And I'm like, okay, dude. I mean, he was I don't mean to portray him like he was unfriendly. He was very cool. Just, he obviously didn't want to be photographed, but I just ignored that. Like, I was like, I see it. And I think that, one of the things I think he appreciated is that I had a vision and he was like, he wasn't going to do anything stupid, but he was willing to go with me and come on the ride. I think that belief is so huge that you have to have a vision for it and you move forward and you invite them on that trip.
Yeah. And I think when you are lucky enough to shoot with a creative themselves,
yes,
if you strip it all away at the core, they're like, I get it. I'll let you do your thing. But because the stuff I shoot, it's like $5,000 makeups that'll never exist again.
Yeah.
And it's like, trust me, we'll go this way. And they're like, this took me 4 months to sculpt. Cool. Trust me, we'll go this way. You got to get them there,
And with him, like, you one of the things in the research is you find commonalities. Like, researching him, I was like, oh, I got to talk about Ray Harryhausen, who I'd photographed like 20 years before. And I was a fan since being a kid, right? Jason and the Argonauts with the fighting skeletons and shit. Like, that stuff's the best. And so, we got talking about that stuff, and that's where he kind of relaxed, and he was like, "Okay, this guy gets it."
Yeah, and they also, you probably agree with this, but when you're shooting a portrait of someone that comes from a similar community as you, there's a totally different barrier that drops, and it's really
I brought in one of my books, and I brought it kind of just out of respect, but also to say like, I know what I'm doing, and I showed him Harryhausen in my book, and it was cool.
Do you find it easier or harder to photograph a portrait at a level of someone that you know really well? Like for me, I had to photograph my mom here for a demo.
Oh my God.
And it broke my brain. I was like, I have no idea how to light this woman because I've seen her my entire life.
You have to create almost a disconnect and see them as an object. It's a photographer, colleague of mine back in the day. His name is David Barry, amazing photographer in the 90s. And he was the opposite of a people person. He would photograph people as if they were still lifes. And he told me about that. And I was like, this is amazing. And he got these amazing, bizarre pictures of people because he just had no respect. Like, and it was a good lesson for me because I would be so intimidated by photographing like bands I loved, photographing like Nick Cave or Sonic Youth, these like great 90s or 80s like alt groups. And so it was a good lesson for me. And like, I need to find the disconnect. And, one of the things I did a series of photographing other people with my full name. And the first few shoots I did, if you want to find it, it's on my website. They're all people named Chris Buck. It's under the series work again. And I kind of realized that I needed to give them a little speech because the first few shoots I did with it, the pictures were really boring. And so I started giving a little speech about, I'm not here to protect you or to kind of watch over you. I'm going to ask you to do weird stuff and I hope you'll do it. And so it really and after a while I realized they're kind of looking at me like, yeah, of course I don't expect you to take care of me. Like they know the deal. Any subject, and these are regular folks.
Yep.
They know the deal. And so I learned like, I just need to do my thing and I need to be professional and respectful, but I need to ask for what I want, you know?
Yeah. When I get started on something where I don't know, I sculpt the bone structure and I work from there.
Wow,
so, and then I go by them. If they're like, oh, but this and that, I'm like, and then I open up or I flatten or whatever, but I'm really all about I look at people someone's going to beat me up one day. I'm just staring at their face. I'm just like, this would be so cool if we sunk your eyes in super tight and cut the jaw hard. And like, but once they see like lighting they've never seen themselves in, something breaks in people and they go, where can we go from here? You know, but how long do you usually have to work with somebody?
You know, obviously it varies, but you know, usually a couple hours.
Oh, so you got a good amount.
Yeah, like the time to set up and then time to shoot. I mean, occasionally there'll be shoots that are super short. Like I photographed President Obama in the White House and it was like 3.5 minutes, but we had 2 hours to set up.
Right.
So we could build out the shot and, you know, have an idea what we're going to do. And it worked out great.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's really, a lot of it is about prep and being ready. I always want to do multiple setups. I'm a big believer. Like it's something someone taught to me early on, like, always do at least 2 setups. It's just as professional practice. No matter how great your first idea is, it may not work.
All this. I have a 3-shot method.
Yeah.
So I do a 1 shot that's like the referential, boring. We got it. It's professional. It's clean. The second one is something I know will work, but it's completely different. And then if I got 10 minutes, I throw something against the wall.
Yes.
And I go, if that works, then I got something for shot 2 next time.
Yeah.
But I always also, you know, you can shut off groups of strobes and whatever you want. So I have a button on every camera I have programmed in the grip to kill my strobe and go to auto ISO.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so it kills the strobe, then whatever the ambient is, it may shoot up my ISO, but at least I have a look and then I can work from there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm doing that without taking the camera down. And just not taking the camera down, you get the subject to just not be sitting there awkward, waiting.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
That's cool. That's great. Well, I have a similar thing where, like, you know, there's that thing like all bands only have 3 songs. Like they're just trying to do it better. I think photographers are like that too. Like every photographer has only 3 pictures and they're trying to nail it, you know? And I think that like every shoot, I'm like doing the super conceptual shot and the super simple shot and maybe like black and white far away or whatever. Like I'm always trying to get that variety. And I don't, you know, some people when they're shooting, they're like, oh, I knew it when I was looking through the viewfinder. I'm like, I'm not that person. And in a way, that's kind of, I used to be insecure about that, but then I realized, you know, that's actually a strength. My feeling I don't have it yet is what pushes me through to be like, we can do better. Yeah. We can do better. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I love to go long. Like, okay, I did a shoot with Jason Acuna from the Jackass crew. And I was like, oh, how much time do you have? He's like, you got me all day. I'm like, okay, so this is for the Times Magazine. I want to nail it. I want it to be awesome. We shot for 11.5 hours and literally like we started in the morning in one part of LA and shot at the end at sunset at the other end of LA. At the end of the shoot, we were at the last setup and I'm like, just out of like being polite, I'm like, hey, Jason, I'm taking my crew out for dinner. You want to join us? He's like, yeah, sure. So he came to dinner with us too.
Yeah, we build a rapport.
Well,
you've been through it.
I mean, that's also who he is. Like, he's just like a very present, warm, cool person who just like, he just likes people and loves life. And just, he brings that vibe to everything he does. Like, I mean, definitely like you meet certain people occasionally who are like, this is my new muse. Like, I would shoot Jason any day. I'd do anything with him. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's the best.
And connect with your subject is key on something like that. When you want to get a muse, like someone that will like bring it with you.
Okay, hey, I want to give you a hack.
Go for it.
Okay. This is a little thing I do sometimes. If I know that someone is a fan of someone I photographed, I bring them a print or I bring them a book. Yeah, I brought Seth a book today. I bring people a little gift and it works most of the time. It really, if I get the right, like I brought a print for Neil Gaiman.
What?
Of Tori Amos, who he was a good friend of his, and he almost started crying. Like, it was amazing.
That's
so
wild.
It's a thing where like people are very moved when you bring them a print. Like the guy I'm photographing tomorrow, I'm bringing him a print. Like I want to get, because it shows one, that you're giving them something of value that's actually like a unique piece, but 2, it shows you've done your research. Like you've chosen something that is like something you've obviously done deep research to know they wouldn't be moved by that.
Yeah. And this is a language.
Yes.
You've made your first greeting with
Yes.
something like that. And that says a lot,
Yeah.
especially if you're banking on, I know this will mean something to you on some level.
Right.
That's a huge gesture.
Totally.
That's wild.
I don't know when I first did it, but it works about 90% of the time. Not always, but it's a good hack, and I'm happy to share it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the workshop's going to have hundreds of hacks like this.
Well, the link to the workshop is pinned to the top of the chat, guys. Melanie's a long timer here, is asking, have you ever had to work with someone you really didn't like you personally didn't like them and did have a negative effect on the work?
Yeah, I'm sure I have many times. I'm going to flip that. What is more interesting is when the magazine tells me, they may not say it directly, but they imply, look, we want you to take this person down. We want them to look bad.
That's
and
horrible.
I can't help but be like, I just can't help but like be a contrarian and flip it and be like, let's treat them nice. You know, I was shooting with Linda Tripp. Who,
wow.
Yeah. So she's the famous best friend of Monica Lewinsky, who betrayed her friend and kind of, I guess, gave information to was it the FBI or something? Yeah. And so I was shooting her for Newsweek, and they're like, they didn't say it, but they kind of implied we wanted her to look bad. And I was like, I gave her beauty lighting. You know, she was like, we were shooting in a hotel in DC. She was like, I want a drink. I had a drink with her, which my client was like, these pictures are going to be out of focus. I'm like, yeah, we'll use a wide depth of field. It'd be cool.
It was a 14 at F11.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
It's all good.
Don't worry about it.
And so, but people were like, whoa, like these pictures are so flattering. And I'm like, sorry. But I don't know. But also too, sometimes people are really unpleasant to you. This doesn't happen often, but occasionally, especially when you're younger, when you're kind of not taken seriously, people treat you like dirt. And I think you have to turn it in your favor. One of the real strength of being kind of young, like being in your 20s and trying to get good portraits, is people they treat you like you don't know nothing. And you got to use it to your advantage because they tend to kind of weirdly let down their guard. Then you get those awesome pictures that are kind of more playful or more candid, unguarded. Yeah, because they think, well, what's this person going to do? You know? And I've got amazing shots early in my career just because of that. Because I wasn't taken seriously.
So not age related, but I would always bring cameras with me that didn't look super professional. And then people don't. So I did commercial work, and then you're hanging out in between stuff and you take out a rangefinder, and then you get these shots that are just like the lifestyle rather than the commercial, and they'll take those too. Yeah. But people just drop, if they don't see a giant raw, they kind of just you're doing whatever.
That's actually really cool. I kind of take the opposite approach. I always like shooting a medium format camera because I want people to walk in and be like, oh, wait, this isn't like a camera my uncle has. This is like a real camera. Yeah. And so back in the day, shooting Mamiya 6.7, or Hasselblad, that was like, oh, wow, this is a real shoot.
Yeah, I shot Pentax 6.7 and I did Hasselblad 503 square. But I would also, when I was younger, I would set up lights I knew I would never use. Yeah. Just to make people feel like, oh, there's giant umbrellas here. This must be a thing. But sometimes the client just wants to feel like they paid the right money for the right person.
I've heard of people doing that. I just don't care enough. I don't know. Also, too, a lot of my photographic heroes starting out were people like Mary Ellen Mark or Larry Fink, who had, they had a refined aesthetic, but it was sort of like lo-fi. Their pictures didn't look unprofessional, but there's a way in which they kind of purposely, maybe they work in alone or just with one person, maybe just like a flash held away from camera. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I love their aesthetic because it felt kind of like a lot of the music I liked was kind of punk rock, raw in the garage vibe, Well,
I think that's why we have so many younger generations that specifically come to here and they want to shoot everything on camera flash because they've been fed overly polished media for so many years. They're like, no, this is honest. This I believe. American Apparel made a whole campaign career out of it. DKNY ads are always someone getting out of a car with a hard flash because you just feel like they're right there. It's honest.
But the funny thing is that the thing that separates the professional from the Instagram photographer these days is lighting, because you can shoot on your phone and the barrier to entry is very low, which is awesome. That's not a criticism, but the barrier to entry is low. But to learn how to light, that is a skill that takes years to do well.
Yeah, and I think the light, when you are creating everything in that frame purposely, and the light, how we start with a black frame, we do demos here. You're saying a lot. You have total control.
Yes.
Everything was a decision you made. I always tell them that every decision in a frame is a word in a sentence. So if you're building the light, that is the language.
Well, especially one of the things I love about shooting on location is, I don't know why, and actually I'd love your take. In studio shots, you're expected to have better lighting. Like your lighting needs to not necessarily make a big statement, but it needs to be refined and pointed. It needs to feel like you made decisions and you nailed it, even if it's a subtle lighting. Whereas on location, you can have all kinds of different backgrounds, and the lighting, it needs to be there. It needs to kind of help the story, but it can be kind of a little rougher. What is that in studio lighting, if you're shooting against a seamless or even like a built environment, the lighting needs to be like nailed? What is that?
Because the studio is a blank page and you're responsible for everything. If you're on location,
Yeah.
there's an organic nature. And if the light's a little off, the light's going to be a little off in that diner anyway.
Because you think that like the viewer just understands intuitively that like, oh, there's more factors, they got to balance.
I think that if you give someone a location and they can identify what location is, and then they feel what it was like when they were in a location like that.
Sure.
So if you're in a movie theater scene, for example, you've got a giant soft light flying at everybody because but if you're in a diner that's got overhead light with drop shadows, but there's a bounce from here, and then the little jukebox has that red light that goes this way. As long as it feels like that scene, you got it.
Right.
And that's the cinematic narrative that I do a lot. But
true.
when you're in a studio, Joe McNally always says it's a blank box you fill with your imagination.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of responsibility to that if you want to be taken at a level.
What it's funny is like, I used to always hate shooting in studio because the technical stuff was more of a challenge for me.
It's sterile, right?
It was sterile and dead. And I was like, oh God, I have to create, it's like creating life out of nothing.
I have to work. Oh man.
Well, it's always work, but it's, okay, fair enough. But what's funny is now I'll do personal shoots and I'll do seamless setups in there because I realize that I'd rather have a clean background than an ugly background.
Yeah.
So I now I have an idea and I want the idea to be focused. So I want like the background just to kind of like maybe add a little dynamic color, but that's it. I don't want any extra narrative. I don't want stuff distracting.
Yeah, if I'm building from scratch, I don't want anything fighting with what I'm trying to show you.
Yes.
I'm going to have enough of that with whatever's in someone's head while they're looking at it.
Yes.
I'm going to guide you. I always say like 87% of the way. You take the rest because if they're not participating, they're not going to be connected to your work
100%.
at all. And I think that said, there's a lot of people that do clean work and it's boring itself, but a lot of people get to a place like, look how technically perfect this is. And it's like, yeah, but is it perfect if no one's really digging their nails into it?
Well, actually, I want to ask you about your question about, and maybe I'm not understanding it right, but you were talking about leaving a little space for the viewer to enter. So how does that work for you? Like, how do you bring, like when you're developing something and you're often using complex elements like elaborate makeup and props and environment that you brought in to create a vibe. How do you leave that space for the viewer to step in and kind of close the loop?
I think there's an art to ambiguity. I think there's an art to what is that small detail and what is going on there.
Yeah.
So when I shot a lot of like actors and stuff like that, like one guy always got cast as a doctor, but I put like candy in his pockets because I'm like, he's a pediatrician, and like let them come up with that themselves. Or if I was an alien for a creature, whatever, I'd get every vibe I could to tell you that it's an aquatic creature.
Sure.
But is it primal? Does it have a sentience? Is it intelligent? Is it a hierarchy? Is it a civilian? Like I gotta give you this.
Right.
I gotta give you the respect of you can figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just told you I'm speaking at you, not with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's funny, like there's almost different. There's different approaches. I think the more literal approach can really work. And I think that obviously there's very successful photographers who deliver that. Like there's a concept, the concept's delivered full on, like there's no confusion. But I'm like you, I want something more. My favorite, let's put it this way. I try to shoot like my favorite photographers where the loop is open. And like Ian Corbin was a big influence on me when I was starting, the music photographer, where he'd shoot these music pictures, these amazing musicians like Joy Division, or did great stuff with REM and Depeche Mode. And there'd be a narrative, but it would not be clear what exactly he's getting at.
Right.
And that was super cool. I love that, like, it wasn't really clear. Like maybe it was like really dark, or maybe it was just funny, or or maybe it was like a nod towards like the eternal.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like critical of religion. Like it could have been a whole range of things. And that was actually really, I love that as the viewer, it was sort of like, I always consider that an invitation to step into the image.
Right. But that it stuck with you, like one of your
Yes.
first influences. I think that's where
Yeah.
your first influence makes the most impression, when you feel like you're part of it.
Yeah.
One of the first photographers that I ever got really infected by was Glenn Friedman, because nobody was shooting like what I was shooting. BMX, skate, all the crime, the gory docuseries stuff I was doing and stuff like that. And you'd go to these trade shows, it was birds and weddings and sports and Olympic this. And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this. But then I came across Glenn Friedman, like, this is a guy giving a newsletter to the rest of our community of, here's Henry Rollins, what he was like when Black Flag was this, and then, you're at a pool the next day shooting skating.
Yeah.
That was everything to me. And it just made me realize, even if the work wasn't everything I cared about, that it could be work that I could do, So sometimes you just got to find someone that's in the same vein as you a little bit. And I think when it comes to portraiture, you could see the same person shot a million ways. And you've really got to figure out what type of portrait photographer you are, or how you would have approached it. But there is no right answer.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? But you've got to be happy with whatever you did.
Yeah.
You got to live with that work forever. You know what I mean? Anil's asking, can you describe shortly about low light on camera flash photography? Are you asking like technical, or are you asking about within his work? If you're asking like a technical thing, there's an entire channel on here full of 15 years of technical.
So what do you mean by low light on camera?
So I think
like flash fill?
on camera, what we were just talking about, direct on camera film.
Yeah, I just bought an on camera flash before we started.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I usually would use like a pro photo light, either plugged in or battery powered, and that'd be my light source, whether it's adding or not. I love available light. Like when I'm doing a shoot, let's say I do 5 setups, it'll probably be 2 with strobe or strobe available light mix, and then 3 just have all available light. So if you go to my website, it's a total mix. And if you can't tell which is which, that's great.
Well, that's the thing, is if you're introducing strobe, you got 2 choices: either make it work with the existing or make it overtake everything. So it's either creating a new light or it's cleaning up the light that exists. And for me, when you do on camera light, my philosophy is to get it as close to the lens as possible, because I don't want to project
weird shadows,
sundials everywhere.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of like, yeah.
Well, also too, like one of my little tricks I do, I talked about it with this shot of Kazuhiro, that if I need a fill, I put it right over camera, like literally symmetrically right over camera, and it adds a little light, but the shadow falls in a way that it doesn't, because one of the big things when you're first learning to light is like, oh, these shadows are all over the place. It looks crazy and terrible. So I actually learned this again from that guy, David Barry, is he would put a little light over his camera. And I was like, I'm stealing that from me. He's like, okay. and so I put this just like an extra small box over camera. It puts a little kiss of light, maybe like 2 stops under meter.
Just to break that shadow.
And it just puts a kiss of light everywhere. But because it's right over camera, the shadow falls kind of behind the subject, and you can see it if you look for it, but it kind of just feels like room light.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing where it kind of disappears as a kind of competing shadow.
Yeah.
And it also allows me to be brazen with my key light. So I can put the key light almost behind the subject and have this really 1.5 or 2 stop under kind of fill light. And now I'm just going crazy, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I do this similar, but I either throw like a massive umbrella behind me and really dial it down.
Yes.
Or if I have a white wall, that wall's always
Right.
getting a strobe at
Totally.
it. And you'd be surprised how many times you think your lighting isn't there, but it's really the density of the shadow. Your lighting pattern's set, then the density of the shadow is your fill. So the fill light is like that light you should not even realize is there till it's gone.
Yes.
And fill light really, I think to me, that's the elevation.
Yes.
It's when you have that density.
Well, and the irony of doing this is, like, we're talking about it to seasoned pros, and it sounds very like this great hack. But the fact is that I'm doing it to make things easy, like, because it means that I can now worry about other problems, and it's sort of, I don't use it every time, but, sometimes I just use the available light, the room light, or the, outside as that light.
I mean, when I'm super sculpty with my lighting, if my subject moves a couple inches, that changes the entire thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a subject that's working with you, or like if you're shooting kids or someone that wants to move, You are not doing that setup.
Yeah.
Because they're 50% of this equation, kids.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah, you're definitely going to rewatch this, Craig. I promise you. We're actually at the hour, man.
Oh, awesome.
I do want to give one more shout out to my man's workshop over here. You want to give him a quick rundown on it really quick?
Yeah. So the workshop is later this month in Bushwick, Brooklyn. It's June 20th to 22nd, and it's going to be a 3-day intensive we're going to have assignments with critiques, multiple assignments with critiques. There's going to be portfolio reviews, a live portrait demo, and a VIP guest with Amy Kellner from the New York Times Magazine. It's going to be a crazy weekend. It's interesting because, like, obviously I'm a little intense, but it's but it's really a space where I want people to come and learn and be themselves. I am critical, but it really is a place where we evaluate everyone based on where they come in, right? It's really about, I want people to be improved and be better and to be their best selves. I'm there to give you permission to be yourself. That's really what the workshop's about.
How many people do you take on usually?
Yes, we have a maximum of 12, but it could be 10, who knows? Like, it's going to be a mix depending on who signs up. But yeah, it's pretty small. And we actually do like a bespoke assignment based on you individually. And this is something I don't usually reveal. It's actually a bespoke assignment based on your work and your personality that's delivered during the workshop. It's pretty awesome.
That's the thing. They're not, I could go on forever. The workshops that drill a formula into you, like, I did this and now you go do it. If you're into, that's fine. But if you really want to grow as yourself, you want to be able to handle anything, you want to find your next level, that's how you approach it.
Yeah.
That's critical. And I can't applaud you enough, especially the portfolio review is huge. That's awesome. So if you are in New York, or you're coming to New York, June 20th through 22nd, although I got to tell you, that's right when the Mermaid Parade is. I don't know, man.
Man. Well, yeah, that could be your bespoke assignment. Yeah, sign up today.
If you need hands, let me know. But guys, go follow man Chris Buck right here to stay up on everything. If you are into this, there's 55 other episodes, and not one of them was twice. It's all 55 separate people. So check out Chris Buck. Check out Adorama Events YouTube channel. I'm going to put this up here really quick. Sorry, I got to do the whole spiel.
Yeah, please.
Scan this. Go hit subscribe, because everything we stream out of here is on the Adorama Events channel. This is Adorama TV. If it's your first time here, hit subscribe. Drop some comments from man. We'll check back on this. Chris, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for the book. And
of course.
this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
Guys, I hope you have a great rest of the week. And I forgot who's my next guest, but tonight, 5 p.m., right here in this event space, the man behind Capture One himself is going to be right here. The OG, the guy who does all the color science for Capture One, will be here doing a deep dive. That's at 5 o'clock on the events channel, or these chairs are for you. Have a great rest of the week. See you on the next one, guys. Later.